Welcome to Momming as a Millennial, the podcast where we explore the intersection of tradition and modern parenting. Have you ever felt overwhelmed trying to balance being a mom with your professional aspirations, all while dealing with side-eye from your parents who think you're doing it wrong? Me too. I'm your host, Christine Gerizzo, a journalist, blogger, and proud mama of 2 young children. I'm so glad you're here with me. Together, we can navigate the complexities of millennial motherhood and find what resonates with our true, authentic selves. Let's dive in. Welcome to another episode of Momming as a Millennial. I am so excited about my guest today. She actually reached out to me on my website to share a situation that she was going through with her son, and I immediately reached out and asked her if she would be a guest. Welcome, Amanda Phillips. I'm so glad you're here.
Thank you for having me.
Amanda is a stay-at-home mom of 2 small children. And I was telling her right before we started recording that I feel like she's sort of like a mythical creature. I don't have very many friends who are stay-at-home moms, and I just think that it's such a challenging job. And I'm going to take this opportunity to dig into her life and ask all sorts of questions around, her lifestyle, how she runs her home, the stuff that I've always been wondering about stay-at-home moms and that lifestyle. So Amanda has been gracious enough to answer all of my questions today. And that's where we're going to get started. And then we'll get into the situation that you brought up when you messaged me. So the first thing I wanted to start with is kind of like an overview of where we are with like numbers of stay-at-home moms, because I think lately there's been a resurgence. And I know you had just mentioned that you didn't feel like there was a ton of stay-at-home moms that we know of, like in our circles.
Right.
And I think that that number is increasing, and there's a number of factors behind it. And the first one is COVID. I mean, in my opinion, and I think there is some data to back this up, it was a big decision point for a lot of families because at that point, everything changed.
Yeah.
Daycare is closed, schools closed. It became impossible for parents to juggle working their full-time jobs. Some of them were switching to working from home for the first time, so they had to figure that out. Then they had to take care of their kids 24/7, which I know sounds like something they should be doing anyways. But on top of working, yes, and then homeschooling the children who are of school age, it was just a ton of pressure all at once. And as a result, I think a lot of women left the workforce in large numbers to care for their families because there really just wasn't another option. And because the world closed down, a lot of jobs were lost, and largely in like leisure, hospitality, and retail space, which are predominantly occupied by women. So I do think that women were disproportionately impacted by COVID. And as a result, I think that pushed a lot of women back into the home. The White House at one point released a number of 2 million women had left the workforce as a result of COVID. And some people have said that number is inflated. But I think it speaks volumes that we're talking millions,
right.
Not thousands.
That's a big number.
It was like a huge shakeup. I know some women have gone back to work, but I don't think it's back up to the number that had left. And the other thing that's really becoming increasingly difficult for families to manage is the cost of childcare.
It's so expensive.
It is so expensive.
That went into our decision. When I got pregnant, we really sat down and tried to figure out if it would be worth it for me to continue working or if we would be able to have me stay home with the baby.
Oh, that's awesome.
And thankfully, I was able to stay home. And I'm still thankful because you can never get that time back. And I feel lucky that I was able to do that because I know that is not everybody's situation at all.
Yeah. And I know it's like another mortgage. Like we're talking like several years back now when you were evaluating the situation.
Yes.
And the cost of childcare has continually gone up.
Yes, it's insane.
I looked into some stuff because I wanted to share some numbers for people who aren't really aware of how much it costs. And looking at it nationwide, it ranges drastically from $400 a month to $1,500 a month. And this is like per child. And then I wanted to look at New York specifically because obviously the cost of living tends to be a little bit higher here, and that's what we're dealing with. So infant care on average is $19,500 per year, which breaks down to be about $1,600 a month.
Jeez.
Preschool and daycare level, like for toddlers, is around $14,000 per year, which is about $1,100 a month. So again, we're talking mortgages here. And from my experience, I was just paying $13,000 a year, which is about $1,000 a month for my daughter only. And there was a point when we were paying for both kids to be in daycare. I'm going to include this source that I used. It breaks down daycare costs by state as of 2023. So if you're interested, you can check this out in the show notes, and maybe you'll want to move to a different state if you're considering childcare.
Yeah.
Check out where it's the most affordable. It might be cheaper to do that.
It could be.
And then another note I just wanted to mention on this piece was, according to a Motherly survey, the number of stay-at-home moms increased from 15% in 2022 to 25% in 2023. So that's like almost double the amount. And the high cost of childcare was given as the main reason.
Yeah.
In addition to lack of flexibility in the workplace, which is a completely different podcast episode.
Yeah. Yes.
But so that has been a big factor. I wanted to talk about the political and social influence that I think is having on women, you know, pushing them maybe back into the home. It's kind of like bubbling up, this conversation about stay-at-home moms. And we've seen it in the news, and we've seen some high-profile people make comments about certain things. But ultimately, I think it's a personal decision. It comes down to what's best for your family, what you can afford, what makes sense. So with all of that context, I want to get into a little bit deeper about your journey and how you ended up with that. I know you just started to speak about the reasoning behind it. So you always wanted to be a stay-at-home mom?
I did. My mom stayed at home with me and my brother. She stayed home until I was in first grade.
Okay.
And then she went back to work. And I loved being home and having that time with her. And I always wanted to do that myself. If I could afford and be willing to stay home and spend that time with my children, then that's what I wanted to do. And I've been lucky enough that I've been able to stay home with both of them.
Yeah.
Because I know not everybody can do that.
Yeah. I mean, speaking from our perspective, I am the breadwinner for our family. So not only do I not have the desire, because I don't think I have the patience, is really what it
takes a lot of patience.
Exactly. If a parent in our family was going to stay home, it would be my husband.
Yeah.
And I think he would love it and thrive.
I was going to say, he would thrive.
It would be great for him. But yeah, so I get what you're saying. What thoughts and considerations went into, you know, like the financial discussion, just the practicality of it?
I mean, my husband always made more money, and it just made more sense for him to continue. He was moving up in his career, constantly getting promotions and different jobs with raises, and
That's awesome.
It just made sense for him to continue and me to stay home. And I mean, if I went back to work, I was a banker. I worked at a bank, credit union. And I mean, you don't make like a ton of money. So if I continue to work, my paycheck would be going towards daycare.
Right.
So then what is the point of that? You know what I mean?
Yeah, completely.
So I could save that and do something else.
Did you want it more than him, or was he like
He was totally on board.
Okay.
I mean,
that's awesome.
My husband is pretty easygoing. He's like, whatever you want, whatever makes you happy.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I've lucked out. He's not ever been one to say, you need to go back to work.
Yeah.
Like, this isn't working. You need to go back to work. He's fully supportive in everything, which has been makes my life easier. That he's just like, okay, whatever you want, dear.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
Did you have to like make sacrifices financially?
No,
or
thankfully.
You're doing great. That's power to you. That makes me
I'm
so
telling
happy.
you, we are so lucky.
Yeah.
This is not everybody's situation.
Yeah.
Have we had times where we've struggled? Of course. But it's never been to the point where we couldn't come back from it. Or, you know, you just have to cut your spending. My husband, I love him to death. But he is very much like, YOLO, you know, whatever. So I'm the one that's like, okay, but I'm a little more practical, and he's a dreamer.
Okay.
Let's put it that way.
Well, let's skip to that because I have some questions about finances.
Okay.
And I appreciate that you're willing to answer these questions. So if he's YOLO, like what kind of purchasing? Because this is the thing that I always wondered with money. You don't have access to your own money or your own account. So like, what is your purchasing power within the family?
So we are joint. We are on a joint account. And he has never, ever said that I couldn't buy something or spend money on something. He's pretty much, if you need it, go get it. And especially when it comes to the kids too, you know? But even for myself, I'm the one that's like, no, I don't really need that. And he's like, just get it. And I'm like, are you sure?
Do you have to reel him in?
Yes. Especially around Christmas time. I'm like, okay, we don't need all of that.
Yeah.
You know, he likes to make people happy. He's very much a giver. If he can, he will, which is good to a point.
Mm-hmm.
And then sometimes it's like, okay, but let's just save a little bit, you know?
Yeah.
So
do you have a full financial picture of what goes on? Or
I do.
Okay.
Yep.
So
I'm very much in the loop of our finances and what goes where and what we're spending. And yes, I'm very much in the loop as far as that goes.
Do you like turn down the heat to save on the bills? Like I do.
He's like, it's cold in here. Aren't you cold? I'm like, do you have a sweatshirt on? Do you have socks on? Where are your pants? It is not summer. Like,
yeah, turn off lights when they leave the room. That's
me. That's me. And I think that's part of how I grew up too. Like, no, put another layer on and turn all those lights off. Why is that light on?
Yeah.
Nobody's in there.
Yeah. We have those same conversations all the time.
Yep.
All right. So what does your day look like? What structure, routines do you have in place?
So I wake up before my kids. I'm not one to not get ready for the day. I have to wake up and get ready before my kids. That's my time to myself before the madness starts.
I don't blame you.
And then the kids wake up. Then I get them ready for school. We get dressed before we even go downstairs, brush our teeth. Otherwise, it'll take 900 years to get them back up.
Yeah.
We do breakfast. Then I get my daughter off on the bus. And then it's just me and my son. My husband works from home. He works upstairs. He has an office. So then it's just me and my son. He goes to school 3 days a week for 2 hours. So on the days he has school, I'll drop him off. And then sometimes I'll do errands. Sometimes I'll do laundry or clean the house if it needs it. And other times I will sit for those 2 hours and put on Netflix and drink a nice cup of coffee.
I love that.
Yes. And then, you know, I pick him up. He has lunch. My daughter comes home and then we get dinner ready, baths, bed, and then I'm ready for bed.
I know.
And it's pretty much the same thing every day. Weekends look a little different. My husband will take the reins on the weekends. You know, he makes breakfast and he'll get them lunch. And so he's very helpful on the weekends, thank goodness, because Mama needs a break.
Well, yeah, I was going to say when I was still on maternity leave with both kids and my husband had already gone back to work, he was off for a little bit, but he went back to work before me. He would walk in the door at the end of the day and I would like hand the baby and be like, I need 20 minutes to myself.
Yep.
Just go take a shower, use the bathroom, like whatever it was.
I have not used the bathroom by myself.
They always need you. So
yeah. And I'm very much the default parent. So, which makes sense because I'm with them the most.
I think it's a mommy thing regardless.
And it is. It is. But it's frustrating sometimes. My husband comes down from work, we eat dinner, we clean up, whatever, and I'll go upstairs. And I can hear them, where's mommy? Where did mommy go? I'm like, she's not here.
She left the building.
She's gone.
How does that, I have so many questions. How does that work with him being at home? Like, do the kids ever bother him?
No.
Or is it like a strict closed door policy?
They know better.
Okay.
I mean, when they were smaller, there were occasions, you know, I'd go to the bathroom for a second and where'd they go? That has happened a couple of times. But they are at the age now that they know you do not go into daddy's office when he's working because like he's always on camera.
Okay.
So if you walk in, everybody's going to see you.
Yeah.
So they know better, but it's been interesting.
Yeah, I'm just thinking of how exhausting that must be for him to be on camera all day.
It is. And I feel bad when he comes down sometimes because sometimes we both just had a really bad day and we're both just short with each other. And, you know, then it kind of trickles down to the kids and we're short with the kids. So it's a blessing that he works from home. But at the same time, it's tough because I feel like neither one of us get an actual break.
Right. And they're very difficult in different ways.
Yes.
Both.
Absolutely.
Things. I think I just have a higher aptitude to deal with the work difficulties.
Yeah.
I make it sound like I don't want to be around my kids. That's not the case. I just want a break.
Who doesn't?
So Talking about being burnt out, I think it's very easy, especially during COVID time when we were all trapped in the house together. Having the constant need of a child, 2 children, like they were both with you at one point.
My daughter was, that was at the start of the pandemic. And then my son was kind of born into it.
Yeah.
So, it was hard because I didn't feel safe doing like the mommy and me groups. And so we were just always at home.
Yeah.
And if I went to the park, I'm like, just kind of keep your distance.
Yeah.
So it was tough. I think being a stay-at-home mom and then COVID on top of it was like just mentally taxing.
Yeah.
And I think we are all still recovering from that.
Absolutely.
But you just got to find your ways to relax and take time for yourself. And my husband's been good about that. If I need to leave the house when he comes down or just go upstairs and take a break because it's a lot.
Yeah.
Especially toddlers having those tantrums. They're next level.
The emotions. I read all these things about big emotions. I'm like, they're not big. They're like monument size.
Yes.
Like we're talking Mount Rushmore size tantrums. So having worked, and I know this is like a very difficult question because when you were working, you didn't have children, but like dealing with a 9 to 5 and that kind of stress versus dealing with the 24/7 of the children and being home, like was one harder than the other, or do you think you get burnt out easier with the children?
I think I get burnt out easier with the children just because it's constant. But I feel like both are difficult in their own ways.
Yeah.
But for me, I think being with the children 24/7 is a lot.
Are you going to go back to work? Do you plan on it?
I would like to. I think it's just the timing, because even when my son goes to school full time, it's who's going to get them off to school, who's going to get them off the bus, those long Christmas breaks that they have, who's going to be home with them. If they're sick, it's going to fall on me.
Yep.
Just because of the way my husband's job is, he doesn't get a whole lot of time off. He is always on call pretty much. So if I went back to work, which I would like to, I need to find something like if I could get in their schools. And I would be a lunch lady. I don't care. If I could find something where I have the same schedule or close to the same schedule, I think it would be easier.
All right. So I appreciate you being so open. I'm always interested in learning more about other people and what they're going through. And I think just in general, that makes us more accepting and loving of others. So
agreed.
Appreciate that.
Of course.
So now I want to switch gears to why you reached out to me. Your message broke my heart.
I was crying as I wrote it. It was a struggle.
Truly. No, it truly broke my heart because as a mother, it is the saddest thing to see your child be upset and you can't console them.
Right.
And there's literally nothing you can do. And I have experienced something very similar that we could talk about. So please share your story for the listeners.
So I got a text message, which I didn't appreciate that being the way I was reached out to, first of all. But I got a text message from the school saying that my son was having a very difficult time. He was crying very loudly, saying, "I want mommy," for over an hour. And the teacher's like, he's still going on right now. He just won't stop. It wouldn't be so bad. And we could help him more if he wasn't so loud and yelling. And he's just very disruptive. Now, I kind of went into mama bear mode and was like, I'm sorry that he's so loud and disruptive. I think if she hadn't said that multiple times, it wouldn't have been so bad.
That is shocking.
I was shocked.
That a child care professional would say those words to you.
I sent him there. This is his first experience away from me. He's little. I thought that was part of the whole socialization aspect of it. I thought you were there to help him through that.
Yeah.
And now you're telling me he can't? So there was he needs to get it together or he can't continue. If he can't get it together by the end of the month, I'm afraid he can't come here anymore. And I was like, the end of the month is in 4 days.
I was going to say.
He goes to school every other day for 2 hours.
Wow.
So I was not very happy.
I can't imagine.
First I was sad. Then I was mad. And then I went back to sad because I'm like, well, how do I fix this?
Yeah.
What am I supposed to do?
In my experience with daycare and preschool, those people are pros.
Right.
At being able to talk these kids off the ledge. I mean, at drop-off, there was always a child screaming and being pried from his parent. I mean, they could have been going there for months. And that's what I experienced with my son. He had been going to the same daycare his whole life, and then COVID happened, and one building shut down, and we had to move to the other one. And it was like he was brand new, and the crying, and like just how you're describing, but they had the tools, they have the resources and experience to be able to help them through that.
Right.
So where do you stand with this now?
So we worked through it. I just didn't want to have to pull him out and then start over because I didn't think that would be good for him either.
I agree.
So I spoke with my husband. I'm like, what do we do? I never thought I would have to deal with this. And if I did, I thought it would have been with my daughter, honestly.
Oh, okay.
And not my son, because he's a little more outgoing than she ever was. So we kind of just decided that we would take things away. So he loves to watch cartoons. He loves his tablet. He loves his four-wheelers. Like anything that he really wanted to do, we said no. No treats after dinner. And it broke my heart because I was like punishing him for having feelings. I hated doing it, but I didn't know what else to do.
Yeah.
And I still don't feel good about the route that we decided to take.
Right.
It worked and he's doing much better, but I don't feel good about the way we got there at all.
Oh, that makes me so sad.
Yeah. But he's still there. I mean, would I recommend anyone else? Probably not. I mean, if your child has big feelings, really get to know the teachers that are there and see if they're equipped.
Yeah.
I don't know. I thought most preschools and daycares would be able to handle a situation
100%.
like that.
Yeah, that is so normal.
I'm sorry he's loud.
Yeah.
I don't know.
No, the whole thing is like so shocking to me.
Yeah.
You did pose the question when you reached out, do I punish my child for having big feelings at school and not wanting to be away from me? And like everything I read about that says that it's totally normal for children to cry. Like that's how they express their emotions.
Right.
Like, they don't know any other way. And punishing them could be detrimental. And typically in these situations, the teacher is going to step up and support and like help like partner with you to work through this. So I read through a lot of suggested approaches on how to deal with separation anxiety because that is what it's reading to me.
Yes,
separation
huge, big
anxiety.
time.
And truthfully, a lot of them are crap. I mean, like the one was like role play at home.
Oh no, that doesn't work.
Like, okay, so we're going to go through the whole scenario and where they feel comfortable and they're with me. And then I'm going to drop them off and be like, remember, we role played this. Like, it's not going to translate for a preschooler.
No.
So I just thought that was ridiculous. I mean, the one that makes the most sense to me is talk to the teacher, but clearly that didn't work for you guys.
No.
And then help them develop coping mechanisms. So like the breathing and the counting. And I think, frankly, he's just too young to understand that.
And that's the thing. I'm like, what do we do? He's not quite there yet.
Right.
To like understand. So, I mean, it was lots of conversations and trying to tell him like, I'm always going to be there to pick you up. It's only a couple hours. You go in, you do your work, and I'll be there to pick you up.
Yeah.
So it's still... every day is a conversation with him just because I feel like if you let it go, we have a Thanksgiving break and I'm nervous about Christmas break, honestly, because that's 2 whole weeks and he only goes every other day. So it's just a continuous conversation.
Do you feel then like you're on the brink of regressing almost?
I feel like especially after Christmas break, we're going to have another problem, honestly.
Well, I will say the one thing on the list that I do think would work is talking to a counselor. And we ended up going to a counselor at the end of the last school year. So May, June timeframe, because all of a sudden my son was having crazy separation anxiety. He would cry so hard at drop off that he would start gagging, like he was going to throw up. He was like dripping in sweat. And thankfully his teacher was amazing, super lovely woman. She would come out, pick him up, bring him into school. She would sit with him for a while and then later on, she would message me and send me pictures and be like, he's okay. He recovered. But it was every morning and it seemed like it was getting progressively worse. So I was talking to my husband about it. I was like, I don't have the tools to fix this.
Right.
So I was like, we need to do counseling. And I had trouble finding a counselor. And then I had trouble finding a counselor that my insurance would cover. Right. So I ended up going to the pediatrician's counselor, and we just went twice because I'm not crazy about her. And this is just reminding me that I need to look for a new counselor for him because I feel like he could still benefit, even though it was like we were walked back off the ledge.
Yeah.
But who knows when this is going to resurface, kind of like what you're saying. Mm-hmm. But we had barely spoken about anything in our first meeting. And she's like, well, he has generalized panic disorder.
I'm sorry, what?
Yeah. And I'm like, okay. Still not 100% sure what that means.
Right.
But very much not impressed with her. But I will say she was able to help us get to the root cause of the issue going on. And that helped us to be able to have those conversations and like talk through and what was actually going on. He was saying that he was afraid after I dropped him off that I was going to get hurt or something was going to happen to me or I was going to die. Yeah. And like he was never going to see me again. So we were like trying to figure out where did he see this? Because we monitor what the kids watch.
Right.
And truthfully, I think it was Frozen. How the parents get on the boat and leave and die and never come back.
Those Disney movies, you think they're good, but
listen, that's another episode.
I know. Oh, you're not wrong.
Oh, man. So I really, truly feel that that is what it had to be. And he was having trouble falling to sleep at night. So I think he was having nightmares about this too. But at least it gave us that starting point to be able to talk about it. And like you're saying, have I ever not seen you after school?
Right,
like
I'm always there.
I'm always here when you get home. Mm-hmm. Like you don't have to worry. This is way too much for a little child to be like stressed about.
Yes.
He's doing better, but he's just typically an anxious child. He's always been anxious. And you say your son is not?
No. And that's why I didn't understand. Like he'd get nervous in like social situations, but if he didn't know anybody, that makes normal. Sense.
Yeah.
So he's just outgoing. He's funny. He's sweet. So for him to have that many issues at school, and I don't even know how long it was going on. Because he would cry every day when I would drop him off, but they would always tell me he only cries for a little bit and then he's good. He gets it together. So how long was he having like these full-on meltdowns? Was it just 2 days?
Yeah.
The day before and the day you decided to text me?
Yeah.
How long has it been going on? I didn't even get into that because I was so mad. I was like, whatever.
Yeah.
Forget it.
Well, then the lack of communication like pisses you out. No, I get that. I will say the daycare I used to send the kids to, they would always encourage a stuffy or like something from home.
I have tried. I'm like, listen, do you want to bring mommy's bracelet in? Do you want to? I have tried everything. No.
Huh.
I'm like, are you sure?
Yeah, because like that familiar object, the smell or whatever.
Like, do you want to bring your blanket in? Like he's taken to this little blanket he sleeps with. I said, do you want to bring that into school with you? You could just leave it in your backpack. Yeah. Like, no. I mean, I'm at a loss with that one.
Yeah. I mean,
he's tough.
You mentioned bracelet, and last year when we were going through all of this, I was online looking up things that can connect you.
Yes. I got those for my daughter because my daughter has a really hard time. They both have hard times. She had her own set of issues, but she's fine. I mean, it takes her a couple weeks to readjust at school we had a problem this year, but it was new teacher, new classmates, but I had gotten bracelets, like mommy-daughter bracelets for school, and she loved that.
That's awesome.
And I tried to do that for my son, and he's like, no. I'm like, okay.
Well, I found these ones that you could actually like touch.
Oh, I've seen those.
And then it triggers like the vibration on the other one.
Yes.
But you need a smartphone on both ends. Yep. And I'm like, can somebody develop this product where you don't need a smartphone and we could use it with our littles? Because you're going to make a ton of money.
I would buy it.
And it would just be a great invention. So
it would.
Somebody out there, invent that, please.
Yeah.
Figure out how to work it. There's satellites everywhere. You could figure it out.
They definitely could.
So the last thing we're going to talk about is the other question that you raised when you reached out. And it was, did I do my child a disservice by not sending him to daycare? And this was the most fascinating part for me because I wanted to look into this. Yeah. And there is so much noise on this topic out there in the ether.
I can imagine.
Everyone's got an opinion.
Yeah.
I found a ton of articles and blogs, daycare is better. It socializes them. Keeping them home is better. It keeps them, secluded and not exposed to all the crazies and all that. But what was most interesting to me when I was looking into this is how politically charged this debate is going. I mean, everything in our world is politically charged.
I know it.
The right seems to be like pushing for women to go back into the home and saying like your child is suffering if you're not home with them. But I like science and facts.
Yep.
So I kept digging and I found this study. It's from the National Institute of Child Health and Human Development, NICHD, if anyone's familiar with that organization. And I want to preface this by saying it's one study. Obviously, there's a lot of different studies out there. I can't possibly read them all or go through them, but this one is a credible source.
Yeah.
It was quite extensive, and I think it's a good start to just address this issue. It's very long, and I read it for you, so you don't have to read it.
Perfect.
So it examined how early childcare experiences affect children's development from birth until age 4.5. And these were my main takeaways from it. They drew a line at 18 months. So pretty much for infants and babies from birth to 18 months, it doesn't matter if the child's at home or if they're at daycare. The outcomes don't differ that much. And really what's going to make a difference is the type of childcare that the child is getting. So sensitive caregiving, secure attachment, whether you're in the home or daycare, that's what's critical for the emotional well-being. The study emphasized the importance of the caregiver-child relationship. So being consistent, same caregiver, same schedule, and then responsive caregiving, which is like a no-brainer. But maybe not.
I was going to say, these days, you never know.
And then for children 18 months and older, high-quality daycare can provide social, cognitive, and language development benefits. It offers structured activities, peer interaction, and experienced caregivers, typically. But the key here is high quality. So it's the high quality care that yields those results. And quality and care was just a recurring theme throughout the whole study. It's the quality that matters most, not where the child is. So whether they're at daycare or at home, the level of care is going to have the greatest impact on the child. And high quality caregiving, and I know this is common sense, but I'm just going to throw this out there. High quality caregiving can be characterized by warmth, attentiveness, responsiveness, and engagement, where caregivers strongly support children's cognitive, emotional, and social development. Caregivers who are providing high quality care read and talk to a child. They respond to them when they cry. They fulfill their basic needs of, diapering, feeding, hugging, cuddling. They provide individualized attention to the child, and they have routines and structures in place so that they can build trust with the child and that the child feels comfortable. And I read a couple other articles that said similar things for preschool programs. So if the program's low quality, there likely won't be the positive outcomes that you would normally get with a high quality program, like positive impacts on motor and social emotional skills. So when you think about that, if all you have available to you is low quality programs, is it really better to send them, or is it better to just keep them home?
I know. And I considered that. Of course, I reached out to a couple people with the issue I was having with my son in school. And my neighbor, she was like, what's the difference if you just keep him home? And I was like, because I feel like he needs the socialization. And she's like, but does he? I think he'd be okay. And I'm like, let's just see how it goes. And if it doesn't work, then it doesn't work. But I felt like he really needed to be away from me and have somebody else in charge. He needs to learn how to follow somebody else's rules. And how to play nicely with others. And I mean, not that he doesn't, but, kids have their moments. I don't know. I felt like it would be good for him to be in that sort of environment. But when all of that happened, I started to rethink everything.
I don't blame you.
So far, he's been okay. He does tell me he doesn't like school.
Aww.
I don't like school. And I'm like, well, you don't have to like it, but you're going to have to. I said, at some point, you're going to go to school all day like your sister. And then what, bud? I'm like, you kind of have to start to get used to it and being away from mom. And
do you have other support groups or like play groups that he's socialized in?
I mean, not a ton. We do have kids in the neighborhood, and our libraries have great programs that we go to. But there's a lot more girls in our neighborhood than there are boys. So that's been a struggle. He will play with the girls in the neighborhood, but they don't always want to play with him, and he's a little younger than them. So that makes a difference too.
Yeah.
But he does play well with others.
Yeah.
I mean, so
you're doing a great job.
I'm trying.
Well,
I'm trying. It's hard.
It's so hard.
You just never know if you're doing the right thing. You just question every decision you make. Everything.
100%. Yeah. So this study said that family environment has the most significant influence on outcomes of a child. And it sounds like you're creating a wonderful family environment. But I think this really shows the importance and the benefits of providing that nurturing and supportive and, calm environment for your child, regardless of care arrangements, if they go to daycare or not. So to wrap it up, whether daycare or staying at home is better for the child depends on a lot of things, the quality of care, the child's temperament, family dynamics, and then economic considerations we spoke about. I mean, does any of this make you feel better?
I mean, yeah. Thank you.
You're doing the right thing. I mean, my general takeaway from all of this is if you feel that the quality of the preschool is not up to snuff, maybe explore some other options.
Yes.
Because maybe he would be better off at home.
Right. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, it's always something. It's never calm.
No.
So that's all I had. Is there anything else you wanted to talk about?
I don't think so. This has been wonderful. Thank you for having me.
I'm so happy that you came.
Anytime.
I want to thank Amanda so much for joining me today. You have been such a great guest, and you let me hammer you with all of my questions about your lifestyle and what it's like to be at home. So I appreciate that.
Of course.
And the whole reason you're here is because you reached out to me through my website. Yeah. So anyone out there listening, if there's something you want to talk about or an issue that you're having or just a question that's kind of been nagging at you, please DM me on Instagram, go through my website, contemplativemama.com. I'd love to have you on as a guest. This is how it happens. Simple message. Thank you for listening as always. Be sure to subscribe and like and share with your millennial mom friends. Thank you for listening. Thanks for tuning in to Momming as a Millennial. If you enjoyed the episode, please share it with a friend or on social. You can find more from me at contemplativemama.com. Until next time.